So, yeah, let's get to the mercenaries in a second, but I just want to say really specifically, I'm sure that the primary motivation against, this president and the current Haitian regime is of course against U.S. interference in Venezuela, the history of colonial status from the United States, the World Bank and IMF. But just to underline specifically the Trump dimension, I know we shouldn't get lost in Trump and we got to talk structurally, but the notion that a government is acquiescing to a U.S. administration where the president, we all know the shithole comment about Haiti.
Right.
We know the assault on temporary status for Haitians here. That must be, I mean, at the very least, that must make incredible slogans on the street to say, wow,
absolutely,
this is the guy you bow for.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Jovenel Moise has just whatever smidgen of credibility he had went out the window on January 10th when he voted with the U.S. at the OAS. And I think, in a way, that every uprising that I've watched over the last 30 years has had some spark that really is the last straw. So usually it's a kid being shot or killed. In this case, it's that Venezuela vote. And I think since then, the shithole comment played a big role in it because every Haitian felt the lash of that,
right.
As well as the TPS, 50,000 TPS Haitians who are going to be sent back, even though they keep postponing that, and the courts are doing their bit to call it into question.
Right.
So all of that means that Moise's days are, to me, numbered. I really would be extremely surprised if he's able to serve out his 5-year term.
Well, that's good news, and I think that the president might have some similar inclinations you do, because several weeks ago there was a team of mercenaries that were arrested in Haiti. I remember this. I was actually in Puerto Rico at the time, not looking at much news, but I caught this story, and I was like, wow, that's some bold shit. Who were these mercenaries, and what were they doing?
Well, it turns out that they were trying to help Moise, Jovenel Moise, get his hands on $80 million of the Petrocaribe money. Now, most of the actual Petrocaribe fund that Haiti has or had in its savings account has been blown through. Mm-hmm. But there is what they call the Petrocaribe escrow account, which is where all the money which Haiti couldn't send to Venezuela is kept at the central bank. So we don't know some of the details and why they needed 8 armed foreigners to come facilitate this transfer, but somehow or another they were trying to transfer this $80 million from an account that Jovenel had to sort of handle with the prime minister, with whom he was at odds, and the bank governor, into an account that Jovenel had complete control over and didn't have to answer to anybody. So that's what we know. We know that from a source with direct knowledge of the operation. And so that's what we put out in the Intercept in Haiti Liberté on March 20th. Now, after we came out with that, one of the former SEALs who'd been in the team in Port-au-Prince.
Can you tell, just really quickly before we get to that, can you remind everybody of like who was in this team, where they were pulled over, and the types of artillery they were carrying?
Right. Yeah, let me just give the thumbnail of what happened.
That would be perfect.
So essentially on February 16th, this is the tail end of that 10-day uprising that I mentioned earlier. A private jet leaves Baltimore at 2 a.m. in the morning and lands in Port-au-Prince at 5 a.m. the 6 guys on board, mercenaries. They're carrying weapons and, assault weapons, semi-automatic rifles, pistols, knives, satellite phones, drones, etc. They come into the country without going through immigration, without going through customs, and they're met by essentially, let's call them for the moment just cronies of Jovenel Moïse. They're taken to a luxury hotel where they spend the night. The next, a couple of others come in through other means, through commercial airlines, and join them. So it's a total of 8 that are there. One of the guys got away. We can talk about that later, but it's not too important about that part. But he, the team is downtown Port-au-Prince on the afternoon, at about 2 in the afternoon, of Port-au-Prince, outside the BRH, what's called the Banque de la République d'Haïti, the Bank of the Republic of Haiti, which is this big, beautiful, modern, pillared bank rising up out of the garbage and dirt and mess that is most downtown Port-au-Prince. They proceed to try to enter the bank, but a security guard there won't let them in. Meanwhile, out on the street, their vehicles, there's about 3 of them, are sitting there, and they don't have any license plates. They've taken the license plates off. So the police come. They were apparently alerted by bank personnel, but they also saw these cars going around with no plates. And there proceeded to be a 2-hour or so standoff. They ended up arresting 7 of the guys. As I say, one escaped along with the 2 Haitians who were involved, a guy called Josué Leconte, who lives here in Brooklyn, not too far from BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music, in a very swank townhouse.
We're going to have him on the show next week.
Oh, that would be excellent. Yeah, if you can catch him. We tried. We staked out his house and tried to run him down. He ran into a parking garage, and then tried to slip out the side. We ran after him, but he wouldn't talk to us. We didn't want to get any assault charges against us, but he definitely tried to ignore us and run away from us. So if you can get him on the show, I'd be very interested to hear it.
We'll try.
So Josué Leconte, who's basically sort of an American with a Haitian passport, and this other guy who was a very corrupt lower echelon official. He ran the lottery. He ran, a post for electoral affairs or something, and his name is Fritz Jean-Louis. So these 2 guys both managed to escape the scene, as did one of the former special forces, a guy called Mike Phillips. So the other 7, which was basically 5 Americans, led by a guy called Kent Croker, a former U.S. Marine pilot, 2 Navy SEALs, a guy called Christopher Austin and another guy called Christopher McKinley, and then a guy called, 2 other fellows, a guy called Callan and another guy called Port, along with 2 Serbs, were all taken to what they call the DCPJ, the Judicial Police Quarters, down by the airport. They were given, very nice treatment and quarters there, and the U.S. Embassy immediately began to browbeat everybody, especially the chief of police, saying, release these guys, release these guys. Well, the chief of police said, listen, I can't release them. That's up to the court system. They're in the hands of the judiciary. So now the justice minister writes a letter, not to the chief of police even, to the head chief of the police station there, and says, you are authorized, or I'm giving authorization to have these 7 guys released and turned over to the U.S. to stand trials for taking illegal export of weapons. Well, he had no authority to give that authority, and the police chief had no authority to release them. This could only be done by a Haitian judge, an investigating judge, who would have to look at it and give his verdict and say what was going to happen. So they just ran roughshod over the Haitian law, and then these guys were flown back and handcuffed to Miami, where they were given very cursory interviews by, I guess, the FBI, or I'm not sure which authorities yet because they haven't told us, and then released. Now, they broke U.S. laws as well, because when you travel abroad, especially with semi-automatic rifles, etc., you're supposed to get a permit. You're supposed to get a license. You can't just bring it like you bring your cell phone. You gotta tell the ATF about that. But they did not, and they're not being charged for that. So they violated U.S. and Haitian laws, Haiti's most egregiously. And at this point, we're continuing to look into it. There was a second contract, which was far, far more serious than even the grand theft that I just explained that they had. It involved mortal crimes, and but we're still investigating that one. But the long and short of it is we do know from, again, the source with direct knowledge, that they were trying to help Moise get his hands on this $80 million to use as he wants.
But there was a potential, you can't say more, but just to be clear, there's a potential additional contracts that involved, as you said, like mortal, much more serious things than even grand theft. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.